presidential candidate Bernie Sanders is firing back at critics who are pointing out that he has no Senate endorsements. Today on CNN's New Day, Sanders explained that he is happy where he stands and feels that his campaign has made enormous progress. In addition, Sanders claims that his lack of endorsements also shows that he is not the party of the establishment. Just to point out, 6 months ago, Sanders had 4% of the Democratic vote, but now stands at 35% in a surge that has surprised many. Sanders will make his next debate appearance on Saturday night. And this week will be huge for the 2016 race, with both parties holding debates with far-reaching consequences. Tomorrow, Fox Business will host the Republicans, and on Saturday, CBS News will host the Democrats. For more on this, I'm joined by American University professor Jane Hall and IJ.com's Larry O'Connor. Thanks for joining me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Great to be here. Sure. Thank you.
So right off the bat, what can we expect this week? We've got both. It's a big week, 2 debates. So Larry, what can we expect really for the Republican debate?
I think at the Republican debate, you're going to see these candidates finally trying to express their positions as much as possible without the media getting in the way. I know that everybody says that this was a great moment for Republicans firing back against the CNBC moderators. And I guess it was for the base, but they really do need to make some headway. A lot of these candidates do, especially Jeb Bush, especially John Kasich. They need to take the time at these debates, instead of firing and throwing hammers at each other and at the media, they need to make their case to the American people, because it actually is starting to get close now.
What do you think, Professor?
I think that Maria Bartiromo and Neil Cavuto are going to be out to show that they, as former CNBC people, that Fox Business, which is much smaller, can really have a much more focused debate on the economy. And I think they'll be also seeking to ask some tough questions.
So staying with the Republican debate, do last week's attempt, I guess we can call it an attempt at demanding of the networks, do you think that'll have any impact this week?
Well, I think it has had impact, because I think, they are now renegotiating whether they're going to have the debate with NBC in February. I think that's going to get settled. Yeah. They're not going to walk away from a Spanish language network and NBC.
No, I couldn't see them doing
but
that.
I think that charge of media bias, even the candidates have said, okay, if we're going to face Putin, we ought to be able to face a TV anchor. So I think that is wearing thin.
Well, I think they did face the TV anchors, though. That's a bit of a misnomer. Barack Obama, I know, said that. Oh, geez, how are they, if they can't stand up to a CNBC debate moderator? They did stand up to the moderators. They kind of shouted them down.
Good.
Well, exactly, and that's why they had that opening. Republicans are always accused of inventing media bias and using that as a straw man, but I think the American people, even people on the left, I think it was Talking Points memo and Think Progress, said, yeah, this was a disaster of a debate. So again, I think that storyline is done, though. I agree with you. I think that the demands that they put out there are pretty much done, and they'll work things out. Look for this to be a very issue-oriented debate. I really think that they will embrace that opportunity. And
then on Saturday, and a bit of surprise to a lot of people, it's kind of flown under the radar, we have a Democratic debate in Iowa, the only one before the cycle.
The Democrats are having debates?
Right.
I heard something that they might need more, and it's the only one going to be broadcast on network television across the country. So with that, I saw something last night that SNL has had more Democratic debates than the actual Democratic Party.
Well,
so is that a problem going forward?
Well, if you're Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders, you're complaining about that, because talk about media bias. Bernie Sanders people feel that that's bias against him, and they feel that he hasn't gotten a fair shake in a lot of media coverage, and it's provably true.
Speaking of Sanders, let's look at the latest poll that shows him right behind her, and with that, he's sneaking up, and O'Malley, I'm going to be honest with you, was at 0. In the latest NBC poll.
Yeah, I'm actually tied with Martin O'Malley right now.
I think we all are. Actually, we all are. An equal chance of being president is Martin O'Malley.
Yeah.
Well, Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been criticized by these other candidates for saying, but having 5 debates compared to the Republicans' 9. And it does look as if there's an attempt, perhaps, not to have too much dissent in the Democratic Party.
And and with that, so we've got the debates, and we've also got Ben Carson kind of making a few comments this week and getting a lot of attention and fighting back at the media. And we saw this in 2012, where Mitt Romney was relentlessly attacked on stage by his fellow candidates when they saw a weakness. Do you think we'll see that with Ben Carson this week, with him being a front runner?
It's interesting. Well, first of all, my website, IJ.com, we refuse to even use the term front runner, because it's sort of it's a misnomer, I think. What does that really mean right now? When you're called a front runner, it just means that you're doing well in a certain poll. Yes, he's doing well in a poll, but the voters should have a chance. We shouldn't throw that label on somebody and sort of skew the coverage. I do think that he's going to face some criticism from his fellow candidates who see an opening there. You saw it with Chris Christie this morning on Fox and Friends, and some of them will try to do it. Up until now, though, Ben Carson, because of his life story, because of his manner and the way he presents himself compared to the rather boisterous gentleman to his right and left, he's been untouchable. It's been very hard to criticize him and not look like a bully. So we'll see what happens, but I think they're going to try to find an opening there.
What do you think about that?
Well, I
Professor?
think I watched on Meet the Press yesterday when he was asked by Chuck Todd. He repeated every allegation that Carson had made, had made things up, and he went through it chapter and verse and said, "Oh, I think that's really too bad for Dr. Carson. I really like him." That's a classic way to get it out there.
Express
And then have
sympathy.
people express sympathy for the fact that he may have been lying about his biography, according to people.
So with those debates, if there's one candidate who needs a breakout this week in either the Democrats or Republicans, who do you guys think it is?
Well, I think in the Republican side, I know this seems shocking, but I really do think Jeb Bush is at a make or break point at this.
Well, actually, in the latest Republican poll we have, he's at 4%. He is the highest candidate, not in double digits, so he desperately needs to try and get up.
Yeah,
to
and that's
that
what they
level.
said. And the real reason why this is a make or break is last debate was a make or break,
Right.
and he absolutely swung and missed when he tried to attack Marco Rubio. So I really think it's serious for him now.
He looked, again, just purely reading body language, psychobabble, he looked as if he didn't even want to make that charge. He looks like, and the whole low energy charge against him. If you see him in a longer interview, he has ideas, but he keeps saying, I'm not a performance artist. He may be right, but this is shocking that he has this much money and this low a rating. So
All right,
it's
and-
really a problem.
And one last question before we get done on the Democratic side. Is this Martin O'Malley's last debate with the Democratic Party in the race? What do you think?
I don't want to predict that, because I think we're too much in that business.
There's no reason why Martin O'Malley shouldn't stay in the race, really. There's nothing keeping him out at this point. He's pretty well funded in terms of the size of his campaign, not spending a lot of money. And listen, for the most part, he's running for vice president right now, so why not stay in it? And I think that he will. And the question is, will he actually go negative and hit Hillary Clinton in some of her vulnerable spots right
Right,
now?
and
She is a vulnerable candidate.
Well,
has-
and also
he has
Bernie
knocked some jabs.
Sanders has been, loath to criticize her, and will he go after her?
Right.
All right, well, that's all we got. Thank you so much for speaking with us. IJ.com's Larry O'Connor and Professor Jane Hall from American University.
My pleasure.
And coming up, we speak to members of the American University Democrats and Republicans to get their take on what millennials think about this election season so far. Stay tuned.